You are now tuned into Diving Within B, the podcast where we dive into everything. Me.
All right, just like that, we are live. What is up, guys? This is your boy back again with another podcast episode. And okay, so starting today, I want the podcast episodes to be themed around things because I feel like I've done enough videos and me just kind of speaking random thoughts on my mind as they come. Even though I know you guys like that a lot, you guys like to pick my brain and see what's going on. But I feel like it would be cool to have themed episodes and to focus on one topic. That way everything could kind of be more unified. And let's say if you're struggling with something or you need advice on something, you'll see the episode titled that, and then you can kind of tap in with that and hopefully get an answer, a different perspective of thinking about something. So today's episode, we're going to focus on smartphone photography versus DSLR mirrorless photography. And it's not really a battle. It's more so, I think it's very interesting how, smartphone cameras are getting so great. And back when I used to work at my other job and I used to sell cameras, a lot of people would come in and, they would explain things to me like, hey, I'm starting a brand new YouTube channel and I want a camera that will record this in the best 1080p or like 4K, clean 4K, something like that. And it's just like the cameras I would show them would be right under $1,000 or a little bit more than that. And it's just like, honestly, bro, you got the newest iPhone in your pocket. Use that. Like, seriously. And they would kind of look at me like, what? Like, my phone? I don't know, man. Like, that's not very professional. But no, literally, nowadays, people are making very amazing films and doing a lot of smartphone photography, and you couldn't even tell it was shot off of an iPhone or a Samsung. Like, these mobile devices are becoming very powerful. And this is what it is. At the end of the day, it's like you take the sensor of a smartphone camera, right? You take the sensor of a smartphone camera. This is the latest iPhone 13 Pro Max, right? Look at the cameras on there. You see how tiny they are? What is one of the most important things in photography? One of the most important things in photography is light. You need light. Without light, everything will be black. And hey, if you're going for a black image, you're going for a black video, perfect. Like, you nailed it. You did it. I'm proud of you. But 9 times out of 10, you're trying to capture something, right? So smaller sensors make it a lot more difficult to capture a clean image or capture a low lit image. You notice if you take your smartphone out at night or you turn your lights off in your room, you and your friends are playing around, you and your family members playing around, you're trying to take a picture or video of them, everything kind of gets rough and nasty looking and very grainy, but not the good grain. I like the film grain, like noisy essentially, right? It's because that sensor is struggling to absorb light that it's finding, and it has to essentially create it. So it's turning up your ISO. It's turning up, like, it's basically making the camera try to compensate by creating its own artificial light, which isn't natural or real. So that doesn't look as good. And that's one major advantage that most DSLRs or mirrorless cameras will have over a smartphone, because you see a camera most of the time is big, right? Or at least a lot bigger than a smartphone camera. You're talking about something that's like this small versus something that starts off at like this size. So it's just like, it's not really a battle at that point. But one thing that I think camera manufacturers and companies can really learn from, like Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, Panasonic. It's like smartphones, especially iPhone, are becoming so great for photography because they have these supercomputer processors inside of them. And the processors almost have an artificial intelligence. So let's say your phone that's constantly hooked up to the internet, that can constantly search databases and constantly search all the photos you've taken already. The moment you take a picture, let's say it's a picture of a flower, and I'm not sure 100% how the process works, but I know it does use some type of artificial intelligence, at least on the flagship phones. It knows that, hey, this person's holding up this camera over a rose. We know what good rose photos look like because 2 million people like this rose photo on Instagram. This rose photo was the most saved rose photo on not Instagram, on google.com. So it's almost like the camera tries to make your picture better because it utilizes the artificial intelligence inside of it, and it creates and determines the best settings and the best, like, it changes it around for you to make that picture more appealing. And I think that can be a good and a bad thing, because it's like, at the end of it, you don't want your picture to be like somebody else's. Some people do, but a lot of people want their picture to be unique. And I feel like that's where editing comes into the fact. Like, you can manipulate the photo afterwards and push and pull things around. But that's one thing that I feel like cameras don't really have powerful processors. And I feel like now we're getting to that point where, yes, they do. Like, a lot of the Sony cameras are using very powerful processors. That's why they're so fast, and they can operate at such incredible speeds. So I feel like we're starting to reach that, but I feel like the processors in a phone are definitely more capable right now. And it makes sense because a phone does way more than just capturing pictures and videos. Phones have a million other processes that they need to be good at. Browsing the web, consuming entertainment, recording voices, making phone calls work, so it's like a lot of different things that phones do for us. And that's not just focused on the camera aspect. But if I were to somehow magically rip the processor out my iPhone, stick it into the Canon I'm shooting with right now, I could assure you that if I'm in auto mode and I'm not using my manual mode anymore, my Canon will magically almost know how to get every picture perfect. Because it's like, at that point, you're taking the brains of a smartphone and you're taking the sensor size of a full frame camera, mix them together, you're good. Like, that's almost like the perfect camera in a way. But it's very interesting, honestly, because it's like, I feel like it's hard. Like, a lot of the time, it's just like you're going to be spending almost just as much as your new iPhone, or twice as much, for a camera that would give you better results in a way. And it's like, I don't know. And I feel like as time goes on, right, that'll just become even more and more and more and more apparent, because phone cameras are only getting better, and SLRs and mirrorless cameras are only getting better and better as well. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see these camera manufacturers tap into the artificial intelligence and see them, because I feel like it's only a matter of time. I don't think they'll do it, but they may. Like, I 100% believe that that'll become a reality soon, to make sure that people still know that, hey, this camera is actually still the camera that you would want to buy if you want to consider yourself a professional and things like that. And like I said, all of these definitions are very loose and mean something different to everybody. But it's just like, I could really see that future where it's just like, okay, I have to invest in a camera because my phone really can't do any of this stuff. But it's like, back when I was in Pittsburgh, about 2 months ago now, and we visited the Frank Lloyd Wright home, and photography was prohibited. Like, it wasn't allowed, I should say. So photography off of a camera, but you can use your phone. So it was like I was pretty upset. I wanted to bring my Canon, or I wanted to bring the Fujifilm X100V, but at the same time I wasn't too upset because I know that I have the latest iPhone, and I know that I could make. I'm not really familiar with how many. I think it's 12 or 13 megapixels iPhones are at now, which isn't a high amount, but you also don't need a lot of megapixels for a lot of things. Like, at least in the smartphone world, Apple and I want to say Samsung, they tried going really high with the megapixels, and basically they realized that, at least Apple, because I think Samsung was the one that released like an 108 megapixel telephoto camera a year or two ago. So maybe not Samsung, but Apple realized that, hey, we have a lot of data now because our megapixel count is so high, but we're not letting in a lot of light. Like I said, light is the most important thing. So they realized that if they go with lower megapixels, they can make those pixels bigger, and bigger pixels absorb more light. So that's why iPhones perform a lot better in low light photography, especially with the processors that they have equipped. So once I realized that, I'm like, hey, I think I could still make it work. I could pull out my phone a few times, achieve similar results, especially since it was nice and sunny outside. It wasn't like it was low light or dark or anything like that. So the pictures that I got off the phone were incredible. It's almost like I know that if I brought one of my bigger cameras, the results would be better. But what I got off the iPhone was amazing. I shot those pictures raw. You can shoot raw on a phone camera now, and raw, for those people that don't understand or aren't into photography, it's basically the uncompressed file, because cameras and phone cameras, when you take the picture, like I said, it basically adjusts everything for you, and it doesn't make the picture perfect, but it tries to in the best way possible. And actual cameras do it as well. And that's what you would have as like a JPEG, if you're familiar with that term. So when you're shooting raw, you're basically telling the camera, give me the raw file, unedited, untouched. Let me put it in my editing service, let's say Lightroom, Photoshop. Let me put it in my editing service, and let me have 100% creative control over all of the information involved. And you can really push and pull an image when it's shot raw, because you have all of the raw data there, uncompressed, well, I guess I said uncompressed, that's good, but unreduced, that's the word I was looking for, that you can change to your liking in whatever way. So you can shoot raw on the iPhone now. You have that control. So even if you're in a situation where it's too dark outside, you can push and pull your shadow depth and shadow information in one of those editing softwares very easily. You can remove noise from your images. You can bring your highlights down. Highlights are a little bit hard, because if something's too overexposed and the highlights are too bright, it's almost like the information is completely wiped. Like when you see solid white in a photo and it's too overexposed, a lot of time if you try to edit that later and you try to bring it down, you'll notice it's still white no matter what. So they always say underexposing is usually better than overexposing, in terms of like if you're trying to edit something later on. But yeah, so it's just like I got amazing results off the iPhone, and that really just made me question, like, dang, there's a lot of people that just believe just because if they buy this expensive camera, it'll perform 10 times better than their phone, when I feel like that gap is starting to close a bit, and it's starting to get a little bit more crazy. And I feel like that's probably another reason why people are switching to film a lot more. Film is really trendy right now. A lot of people are joining the film world because, oh, it looks cool. Oh, I like the aesthetic. Oh, it just looks so cool to bring out this film camera and wind my roll up. And, like a lot of people just like it because of the aesthetic, but they aren't actually appreciating it for what it is. But it's just like the film, it's just a different process than digital, like it's getting captured instead of on an SD card digitally on a roll. and I have to take this role to a lab, or I have to develop it at home in my own chemical bath. Like, it's just a lot more connected of a process, which I feel like gives you a different appreciation for the photo. You can't take the picture and hit the playback button and say, hey, your eyes were closed. Like, you can't do that with film. Like, you take that shot, you take those shots on your vacation, and you come back home, and you just pray that everything turned out great, essentially, because you really don't know. Everything could have been blown out, exposed. The film roll could have been messed up. You don't know, and that's just the gamble you take. But I feel like that's one of the most authentic forms of photography, because it's like you really just have to trust in your gut and trust in the process at that point, and really know which settings to choose on your camera to get everything as you envision in your head, and hope that in the end result, when you get this film developed, that it turned out how you wanted it to. And that's something that not even just smartphones, but just, like I said, digital SLRs and mirrorless cameras, they can't really replicate. You can take that same shot 1,000 times until you get it perfect, and then even still, let's say you took the shot and it was bad and you have to go, okay, I could edit it for hours and get it as close to what I envisioned as possible. It's almost like digital makes it a little bit too easy. And I know personally, right? Like, I have a film camera my grandfather gave to me around the same time I started shooting, or became a photographer, I should say. And I've used it a few times, but I never developed the film. And I think that I'm not really ready for that yet. And I can admit it, like, I'm not one of those people that's just going to jump on the bandwagon just to do it. When I make a commitment to shoot film photography, I want to do it the right way. And I feel like I'll be the person that puts all of my digital equipment down for maybe a year or so and just go 100% at the film so I can appreciate it more. But for me, I like the creative control of being able to, let's say, retake an image, or let's say you only have 30 rolls of film or 30 shots on that roll of film. I like being able to push that to 60. Digital, you don't really have to worry about any of that. It's a lot of benefits, right? But there's also a lot of cons as well, if you're really appreciative of it as an art form and not more so as I don't know. It's a very, very elaborate, intricate, not even a debate, but just a thing, It's like digital photography and film photography are almost just two different worlds, and I think that's funny. I really do. But yeah, if you're planning on becoming a photographer, if you want to pursue that, if you want to give it a shot, you don't have equipment, you feel like, dang, well, the camera's too expensive for me right now, so I have to wait a while before I really can commit to this. If you have a good phone and a good phone camera, please just get out today. Try to utilize that more. You might be with your friends and they might be looking at you crazy, like, why is she pausing to take a picture of this sunset off her phone in horizontal orientation and not just going on Snapchat and snapping it. But it's just like, just trust your gut, trust your heart, and I feel like you can really make a lot out of those images. A lot of my friends, they may have cameras, but let's say they take pictures off of their phones mainly, and some of those shots are some of the most beautiful shots I've seen. It's just like, this is a thing, like, and I love that this is a thing, because it puts that world of photography into everybody's hands and shows you that all of us are capable of it. I'm not saying that everybody has the eye for it, because not everybody does, or not everybody wants to or cares to, but it's just like, now it's so easy to become a photographer or videographer, like cinematographer. You have all of these tools in the device that you call on a daily, or FaceTime people. It's insane. It really is. And I think that's really awesome. So try it out today, man. If you don't have a SLR or mirrorless camera, try to use your phone and, show me some of the results, or just share what you got. And Maybe if you really like a shot, you want to change some things in it, check out some editing software. Show me how you pushed and pulled that shot around and really made it your own. I just think that's so fire. Like, that's so awesome. People are just like, yeah, I got this shot off an iPhone. It's just like, when you get that reaction where it's like, you captured this on a phone, that's how you know that the lines are very much so blurred nowadays. Like, to the point where people can't even really tell anymore. And I think that's awesome. But I'm not going to keep you guys too long. Thank you guys for checking out this episode. That was smartphone photography versus digital SLR and mirrorless photography. I'll catch you guys next time. This is Bruce, and I'm out.